and has been playing Shaman for 2 fucking days. And I can't even time a 24 Halls of Atonement. What the fuck does that say about me? God damn.
Oh, what?
Wait, I take that back, dude. I take that back, dude. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Elemental Shaman VOD review. My name is Barokoshama, and in today's video, we're going to be reviewing JPC and his 27 halls with his team, okay. Ellesmere, Nerve, Azuna, and Onesie. So he's asked me to do this, and we're gonna do it together. All right. So you see your face there. Yep. When was the timestamp?
Let me hold on. Let me look really quick. Oh wait, it was from today, so I actually.
No, I got it. You
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me hold on. Let me full screen this.
And I made some notes.
Beautiful. Okay.
A lot.
Oh, this is great.
A lot of notes. So I already watched the entire thing. Let's watch the VOD. And this is literally going through every pull that you do from first shard all the way to like the first pull before the boss, the first boss, right? Literally everything that you do, okay?
Yeah.
And tips on what you did wrong, but also a little bit of congratulatories for what you did right, okay? So it's not all, you know, doom and gloom for you.
Okay.
All right, so you come here. This is good. You're at full Maelstrom. So essentially, you can gain combat from these guys right away by walking directly over them. Because you're not in combat yet. Now you're in combat, so now you're not losing Maelstrom. And here's your first mistake. So you summon I know you do your you set your focus kick to this obliterator over here, right?
Right.
And then you summon, and then you target the Shard of Hekris, but you summon your Storm Elemental out of range. So what he has to do for the first second that he's out is he has to walk forward before he starts casting.
Okay.
Now I know that like 2 seconds before this, you didn't go any closer because you were afraid of body pulling the first 2 obliterators. Right. So instead of doing that, just wait until you're in range. Because this kind of scuffs your first strike window a little bit. Him having to cast late. Because you have to wait for him to use Call Lightning before he starts casting Eye of the Storm.
Right.
And you wait a little bit too for him to cast Eye of the Storm. You can actually have him cast Eye of the Storm relatively early. In this specific pull, you can have him cast Eye of the Storm right after he casts Call Lightning. Because Eye of the Storm is a 6 second or a 6 second duration, and it's target capped at 6 mobs as well.
Okay.
And there's already 6 mobs around it for its
right.
radius.
Yeah.
So you can have it cast Eye of the Storm right away. I would also not waste so much time like walking around like this. You also did... okay, let me just go through my notes. So, a slight waste of time. Uptime on Storm Element, you could have been closer, like I said. Casting and strafing for 2 seconds while you wait for Storm Elemental to cast Call Lightning. So that's why you were strafing there, and you were also afraid of like pulling aggro right away. You also didn't use Badge. I think you have an issue with a keybind. Or a macro or something.
Yeah, I had certain things macroed, and then I like for a day, and then I swapped it up because it wasn't working, and then since then, today I've been forgetting to press it because I had it macroed yesterday. So I need to sort that one out. Yeah. Yeah,
because this is like a reoccurring thing. You just don't press Badge on some of your spells. So I have it copy pasted on a lot of pulls.
Okay.
Okay. So Earthshock into Shard was not buffed by Badge. So it's a minor priority damage loss. And then you wasted your first cast of Stormkeeper without Badge as well. So that's your biggest impacts by not using Badge right away.
Okay.
Your Eye of the Storm last tick is also without first strike. So if we look at the Storm Elemental here, okay, he's within his Eye of the Storm cast window. And we also see your first strike buff right here, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to look at this. It's going to drop off And the last few ticks of your Eye of the Storm are not going to be in the first strike window. Your first strike gets refreshed, but that's because of the siphon life or whatever that spawns little mobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why your first strike gets refreshed here, and then it gets refreshed again as spiteful mobs spawn, right?
Yeah, we've been intentionally letting... Oh, see, it falls off.
It falls off.
Yeah, okay.
The last 2 ticks of Eye of the Storm are not within that first strike window, and then it gets refreshed again.
And that's the most damage, right?
It's not everything, but it is important, and it's good practice to use your damaging cooldowns in a certain like time span. Like you have to do things really, really quickly so that you don't you do everything within your first strike window.
Right.
Your Eye of the Storm, right? Your Stormkeepers, your Earth Shocks, your Earthquakes, right? It all meshes in together. And it's a reoccurring thing where you're not practicing that like quick succession of cooldown usage, and it's happening a lot in this key where your first strike window is kind of like getting a little wonky. Essentially, you're not able to get the most out of it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, another point is that your Storm Elemental does not proc first strike. It puts you in combat, and its like Call Lightning ability will not proc first strike for you. So a good way to like proc first strike for your Storm Elemental before you start doing your own damaging abilities and stuff is like you can Flame Shock a target, proc Storm Elemental, or proc your first strike, right? And that's only one target that you've hit, right?
Right.
So you're going to get refreshes as you AoE.
Right. Yep.
And because Eye of the Storm is a 6-second duration, you can use your badge, right? And use Eye of the Storm within your first like 2 globals at the same time as the first strike. Your first strike gets procced, and then you'll proc it again as you use Chain Lightning and Earthquake, right? That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, we can skip ahead here because the rest of this is just you doing your regular rotation, which is fine. I know you guys are actually relying on Fey Transfusion and Ancestral Guidance, right?
Yeah,
in the shards?
Thrash. Yeah.
For the second thrash.
And,
that's what I noticed.
I think on the we do it on the first thrash on the next shard, but we are relying on it, yeah.
Okay, so I think I told you this before, but when you're getting ready to use Ancestral Guidance for the second thrash, try and get an Earthquake. You do it here, right? And this is correct. This is exactly what you want to do. You want to get an Empowered Earthquake out before you use Ancestral Guidance.
Right, so that you
because while you're channeling the Fey Transfusion, you're not actually doing a lot of damage because it's split damage between the targets that are inside of the effect on the ground.
Right.
So you want something else out during that time that's healing the group. So the Empowered Earthquake is going to help you do that. There are other shard pulls where you don't put an Earthquake out before you use Ancestral Guidance, and it like people drop low. People drop pretty low. So we'll see that, I think, on the second shard. It's either second or third where like Lay on Hands is forcibly used. You also move a lot away from the volcanics.
Yeah, I think it's just probably a range thing because I'm not really used to having to deal with it too much.
Yeah.
Like as a rogue, I can do damage while I'm moving, I guess.
Yeah, true. That's one thing that I noticed you do is that you when you do move, you move a lot. And essentially what you want to try and practice is to move on GCDs rather than moving more than you have to. So this is going to take some like muscle memory for you to understand what your GCD is going to be like with your haste value. It's actually pretty low at 20% haste, which I think is what you're at, right?
Yeah, I think I'm right around there.
So your GCD is a little bit lower, meaning you got to get used to moving on GCDs with your value of haste that you have. So here's a little bit of a predicament. Your invisibility right here, Stormkeeper doesn't take you out of invisibility until you finish the cast. So what you want to do in a situation like this where you have enough Maelstrom, and you did good here, by the way. You pooled Maelstrom for the next pull. You invis the Pride off. You're kind of a little scared to go any further because of the True Sight on the Gargants. But you also have the Echoes of the Great Sundering buff. And this is going to cause you to play a little bit more aggressively when you know you need to get this buffed Earthquake out, right?
Right.
I do it all the time myself, but sometimes it's good practice to kind of like refresh the Empowered Earthquake buff in anticipation for the next pull if it's going to cause you to pre-pull.
Oh, okay. Like I could have Earth Shocked the previous guy again, even though
you could have Earth Shocked again to refresh it, and then hopefully build up enough Maelstrom to then Earthquake again. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So pull after first boss. When Nerf pulls the first 3 mobs, this is where you should immediately start to cast Stormkeeper.
Right.
Okay. Into your badge, and then maybe a Lava Burst into Flame Shock. Now, you didn't do this because you didn't want to face pull. You didn't want to like pull aggro, and I understand that. But as long as you're not Stormkeepering within melee, it's very difficult to pull aggro off of a triple Thrash Bear.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So what I would have done here is, as soon as I got to these steps,
oh shit,
and you know you're out of range, I would have immediately casted Stormkeeper. And then that's like what, a 1.5, 2 second time cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Nerf goes in. So you're finishing up your Stormkeeper cast here. You use your badge, and then you target the Houndsmaster. You Lava Burst into a Flame Shock that procs your first strike. Okay, now we're at 6 seconds at this moment with your Echoes of the Great Sundering. So you still have time to put it down. Right?
Yeah, right.
You proc your first strike, then you put down your Earthquake. It's only on 3 targets at this point. Okay?
Good.
What you do here instead
James go next.
is you Stormkeeper late, you put down the Earthquake, right? And it hits everything at once. And it procs your first strike, and you don't get any resets.
Oh, yeah, I could have got that. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
You also Earthquake and then Earthshock without it being buffed by badge. Like, this Earthshock is more important than the Earthquake while using badge, right? Because you want to buff the Earthshock, of course.
Right.
Nerf makes good.
But because you didn't, you used the Earthquake, yeah, you lost out on some first strike uptime.
Tree.
Never sound. JPC next kick.
Let's skip ahead over to
Still going on.
I think the end of this pull. So this is a moment where we could have refreshed Earthquake
Go for next one.
legendary
I
buff.
get it.
Because things are dying, right?
Right.
We could have refreshed it here instead of putting it out. Actually, right at this moment, you could have refreshed it on either this Spiteful Shade or something else. And you only need 60 Maelstrom going into next pull. Because in the next pull, you were also like pretty tight on the Echoes of the Great Sundering timer.
Go through.
And you get into a similar issue where you use Earthquake right away and you proc first strike on
This would
everything.
be a trees on pull.
Right. Okay.
So you see how tight your Echoes timer is here?
Yeah.
Aside from that,
Yeah, I did it again. Oh,
you did it again. The badge,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But aside from that, you're really lucky on this pull, actually, because you get really insane. Look at your first strike. It keeps getting reset because of additional mobs that get put in, but also the little siphon mob that came out and died right away.
Yeah.
So your entire burst window was actually in first strike window. I think it was lucky, though.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we intentionally don't kick the sins thing to spawn those for first strike.
It's
For-
good.
'cause
It's
for
good
the-
practice. Yeah.
Yeah, the mage and the boomkin are playing Karain too, but I did get lucky. Yeah, for sure. I need like if I had been better on the previous pack, and it would have been safer, I guess.
It's just good practice. You know what I'm talking about? Because like, there's gonna
Yeah.
be moments where like you're at a 5 target cap, and your chain lightning is going to cap your first strike refreshes alone. So for moments where like you use things like Storm Elemental and your Stormkeeper and Badge in a 5 target pull, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but you want the Eye of the Storm entire window to be within the first strike window. So it's good practice to kind of like get these quick successions of cooldown usage and proccing the first strike on one mob, setting up your Eye of the Storm on it, and then refreshing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So aside from that, you actually do really, really well here on this pull. Like, this was, based off the circumstances that you were in, it was a perfect pull for you. You got
Let's go.
really good burst out of it. You did really good healing with your Ancestral Guidance. And I think you actually used your Spirit Walker's Grace really good here too. Scary. Okay, let's skip forward because you reset that.
Really, your next guy?
So when Nerf pulls these groundskeepers over here, because you do a death run, you're at 0 Maelstrom, right? And you know that this pull is going to be relatively big. So what you actually want to do is start gaining Maelstrom on this groundskeeper, not even like attacking this shit back here.
Okay.
Because what
You don't think I would pull aggro on those little things with a chain lightning or something?
no, because he thrashes them, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He thrashes them, and he thrashes them in melee. You don't even touch
you're
them.
next.
So it's not like he's gaining ranged aggro or anything like that. So I think instead of wasting time putting globals into that, you could have gotten like maybe 3 chain lightnings out here, and then not even touch this guy behind you and save him as a first strike refresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be a big deal.
Because then you can go into this pull, like you cast 3 chain lightnings, that's enough for an earth shock, okay? Because you died, so you have 0 maelstrom. You can't pool. So you start this fight off by chain lightning, trying to gain as much maelstrom as you can in anticipation for your burst window, and then you'll get the first strike refresh on this guy behind you.
Then nerf, you have to.
And unfortunately, you do it again.
I do it every single time.
Dude, you do it so much, it's funny. Let's see, first pull after first shard. Yeah, so true gain first strike. First few earthquake ticks and earth shock not buffed by badge, but aside from that, you did your rotation fine here.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking about it. I think the reason why this happens maybe so much is because on Rogue, you're not supposed to pop your trinket right away with your damage cooldowns. You're supposed to pop it like
Really next time,
2-3 seconds after you press your damage cooldown. So
Is there some kind of like burst mechanic or something? Like,
well, it's like it doesn't have to do with your stats, so it doesn't have to do with your actual abilities. So you wait to get this buff up on the target, the debuff that increases your crit chance by 20%.
Yeah.
Then you use it, and that takes a few seconds after you pop all your damage.
Oh.
abilities for it.
yeah, but all of Shaman's damage is up front and then
Right, I know,
sustained.
that's why it's a bad habit. I gotta
JPC get
break
next.
that.
So essentially, the only time that you delay your badge is if you want to precast Stormkeeper to, one, get it on cooldown, but also so you're not casting it in mid-combat. Because you're not doing anything when you're casting Stormkeeper, right?
Right.
So you can precast it in anticipation for the pull that you're about to do, but then like wait on your badge until you're actually doing damage. Because the only thing that matters is badge uptime.
Right.
Aside from this, I think, yeah, your second shard, you also go into it with a very tight Echoes of Great Sundering window, and you actually lose out on the buff. But you Earthquake anyway, which is funny to see. Oh, here's one thing. You want to lead your Earthquakes, like a sniper leads his shots. So
Yeah.
we know that Nerf is kiting the mobs this way, but you're placing down the Earthquake where the mobs are, rather than where they're going to be. So if we watch this, they're in there for maybe 2 ticks, and then they run out. And then your Earthquake, for the next 4 seconds, or 3 seconds, is wasted damage.
Right.
Okay, so here's the moment where you need to think about your next pull. So you already Earthshocked, and then you're building up Maelstrom, right? You know that these guys are going to spawn Spitefuls, but you also have Echoes of the Great Sundering buff on you. So this is a decision where you need to be like, okay, so do I Earthshock again to start the next pull with a fully empowered Earthquake buff, or do I save it and then hopefully it lines up to where I can place the Earthquake right away? So you waste some time here canceling some globals.
Watch out.
And then we get into the pull. So you immediately run into the room, which I don't think you need to do here. This is putting you in a dangerous position for your burst window being within melee range. Remember we talked about never using Stormkeeper within melee?
Right.
So you're already putting yourself in melee range essentially for your burst window. Which is a little bit dangerous. So one thing here you do right is you use Storm Elemental right away before your Stormkeeper. That's great. So he's already casting Call Lightning. He buffs himself. But if we go back like a few seconds, look at your Echoes of the Great Sundering.
Yeah,
buff.
it fell off and then I still pressed it. Yeah.
You fell off and then you still pressed Earthquake. So that's just wasted Maelstrom at this point.
Right.
So this actually would have been really good. Okay, this actually would have been really good if you actually didn't Earthquake and instead Earthshocked the Shard of Halcris to proc your first strike, because you actually get an Aftershock proc here.
Yeah.
So you immediately reset all of your Maelstrom. So you actually would have gotten an empowered Earthquake out for your burst window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you move over to the right. This is actually the furthest time that you badge before your Chain Lightning, but you didn't badge before the Earthshock or the Earthquake. So the Earthquake doesn't matter as much because the next few ticks are going to be buffed by the badge, but the Earthshock matters more because you're losing out on some potential prio damage from the shard. This is good because you use Ancestral Guidance and Astral Shift right after you place an Empowered Earthquake down. So you're actually doing a lot of damage here.
Did you just...
And Ellesmere's complaining about Dispels, which is really funny because he dies like in a moment here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you barely even took
he has
damage. I
double
needed
on
this
him.
spell.
Well, no one did.
Yeah, like no one decursed him, dude.
Yeah, we were blasting, man.
You're just tunnel vision. Okay, so let's look at the damage. So you would have been pretty much next to Billy here if you got that Empowered Earthquake out in your burst window.
I need this
I
spell,
think
please,
those
please.
are both pulls combined because the Spiteful didn't let us drop combat as well.
Yeah, but if you think about the burst potential that you lost from the previous pull,
Right.
because of the situations that I mentioned beforehand, you actually would have been really, really close to Billy here. Because Elemental Shaman does way more damage than Fire Mage, like if they don't have Combust, obviously, right?
Right.
And through sustained AoE alone, Elemental Shaman is going to creep up against Fire Mage and surpass them eventually.
Right.
I was spamming it, but it didn't go.
You run out of thrash range and then you run immediately back into it,
Yeah.
which is funny. This shard's a little difficult. I know you guys struggled on this one a little bit. That was a good fate transfusion,
Just the shard up
especially because Eliasmir was dead and
Yeah.
coming back. But this shard does take a long time, which is a little stressful. What you could potentially be doing here is, I understand now what your next pull is, right? But
Right.
you don't pool enough Maelstrom here. You get interrupted and you actually use Earthshock here. The shard has like 10% left HP, 171k.
That go off. It was canceled.
I don't think you should have Earthshocked here because now there's no way for you to generate enough Maelstrom quick enough when the mob's at 10% HP for you to go into the next pull with enough Maelstrom, especially
Okay.
because of how much downtime you had on the next pull.
True.
And so, see, you get a little finicky with it, and you're just not able to generate enough Maelstrom. So I actually, in this situation, I would have maxed out my Maelstrom. I would have been at 100.
Would you have overcapped?
I would have overcapped, yeah. I would have stayed at 100
Okay.
as much as I could. Because the shard gets a little, or not the shard, but the pry gets a little scary here. I know Ellesmere's a little bit behind, and he has to go and jump off this ledge over here.
Yeah. I can't believe it made it.
That's insane that you guys made it.
Maybe not. Wow.
Wow.
He's like right next to those dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where all the downtime is, right? And look at your Maelstrom. So if you were at 100 Maelstrom going into this downtime, it would have been way better for you. And I'm going to tell you a little trick. Pull after second shard. Okay, could have potentially built more Maelstrom in anticipation for the big pull on the Groundskeepers instead of Bomb versus
Wait, faster or
Darkblade.
slower that it's like this?
That's what I was trying to figure out too.
Here's what you could have done. Even if you finished eating, if you were at 100 Maelstrom, you likely would have been around 60 Maelstrom here, just based off of how much Maelstrom you lost. So as soon as you finished eating, you actually could have came over and either hexed the Obliterator or the Darkblade and then immediately purged it to put yourself in combat. And this would have stopped your Maelstrom depletion.
Would it pull the other one?
No.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, that'd be great, actually. I could use that.
This works with imprisons, polymorphs, all that kind of stuff. Zaps, right? If you just purge a target that is CC'd, it just puts you in combat. Even if the CC is like a pure CC, and usually you just don't pull combat by walking through it, you'll put you in combat and stop your Maelstrom from going down.
I think faster.
So, and then in that case, you actually would have had enough Maelstrom to like Earthshock right away, right? Put your first strike up, and then the whole shebang over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So you could have started this pull out like way better. And you cancel your Stormkeeper here.
I think I was afraid of Volcanic, but I think I should have Spirit Walkers.
You can completely negate this situation by just pressing Stormkeeper earlier.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Because it's a 15-second buff. Right? It's going to be on your character for a while, and it takes 2 globals to get rid of it. So just press it while your tank is pulling. You don't need to press badge right after it. You can hold on to badge until you're actually ready to do your burst.
Trees. There's LA tier 2.
Wait, I need to rewind a
Go
bit.
after it.
You do bad. Okay.
Trees.
Yeah, could have used Stormkeeper earlier as Nerf was pulling, so it didn't get interrupted.
Tier 2.
Proc's first strike off of Stormkeeper, Chain Lightning. Do you know what that means?
Like I didn't have the first strike for the damage from the Chain Lightning?
Yeah, so your first attack on the target that procs first strike is not receiving the crit buff.
Right. Okay.
So what you want to do is essentially like Flame Shock or Earth Shock. In the case of like I described, if you stopped your Maelstrom from going down, you would have procced your first first strike with an Earth Shock here.
Right. Okay.
And hopefully that Earth Shock would have been empowered by your badge as well. And then
Go off grid.
you would have buffed your first Chain Lightning with the first strike.
Trees.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's LA tier 2.
Aside from that, this was a regular pull, and I had never seen this next pull before.
Oh, don't pull the boss.
This is really good that you're capping your maelstrom and you're overcapping it for the next pull. This is completely fine to do, to overcap it in anticipation for the next pull. The next pull, it takes a little while to group, so in this situation, I would not refresh echoes.
Okay.
Because like you have to you have to CC. What's that?
You would have just kept the maelstrom.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Earthshocked again to refresh the echoes buff because of the way that this pull is like made up.
Okay.
Because you have to come over here, CC a groundskeeper, keep that CC the entire time. You pull in these obliterators, dark blades, and then you pull the boss. So it's like there's a lot of downtime before you actually get into your burst window. So this is good. You summon Storm Elemental early, and then you Stormkeeper, right? But you Eye of the Storm too early.
Because
You're not in first strike.
okay.
And then it procs.
Okay.
So this is actually this is an interesting situation because Storm Elemental is up while you're bloodlusting, right? Or while you're time warping. And normally we want to, for single target in this situation, we just spam Lightning Bolt to try and get the stacks up as quickly as possible. But you're in a very high AoE situation, so you're going to be doing a lot of extra globals on Earthquake and Earthshock in between, right? Not only that, but you have to dispel, you have to do CCs, you have to do interrupts and stuff. So there's a lot going on here in this pull. You guys actually do an insane amount of job here, and your burst damage is nuts. The only thing that would have made it better is your downtime in this specific situation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have moved over here. And you're really lucky that you had Astral Shift up for the entire time that you were running through that pull.
Yeah. I think I almost died.
Oh, the CC's... You get there, you get there.
Did you need Ancestral Guidance earlier?
This is kind of shitty.
Not really. Like, the group wasn't taking a whole lot of damage, so... Yeah, it's fine that you didn't use it. The only thing is just, like, sometimes, like, I just safety press Ancestral Guidance in my burst window, even though it's going to do a lot of overhealing. If I don't need it for anything else, it's better to just, like, have that security than nothing else. But, like, it's not mandatory at all. Because it's off the GCD, there's no harm in pressing it, right?
Right, yeah, and that's actually good because I don't use it anywhere else until the next boss, so, like, there's no reason not to press it right there.
Right, because, like, if these affixes were the same thing, what happens if, like, Ellesmere, like, accidentally gets knocked up, or from a volcanic that he didn't see because of all the shit on the ground, or whatever, right? You don't know the situation, so it's just nice to have that, like, that security. If he was in the middle of a big heal on nerf or something, right, and, like, he was dipping kind of low, like, that kind of thing, you know, having that security, that extra throughput during that big AoE is just nice.
Beam next. This is kind of shitty. A stun on Shade.
The only thing that I see that you do a lot of is you hold on to your lava burst stacks.
You get there, you get there.
You do it more on Echelon, actually, than this boss.
Yeah.
Oh!
Oh, we did it! Hey,
Progress, dude!
Hey.
Hell yeah! Progress! Let's go!
One more slam.
I didn't actually find many mistakes on Halkias, other than just the amount of time that you spend moving without pressing globals.
Yeah.
So, like, in this situation right here, you don't have Spirit Walker's Grace, right? You do, like, one Frost Shock in this entire fight.
Oh, I'm gonna have to soak that. It's fine.
Wait, does that one not have cooldown?
Ooh.
Can I just Frost Shock over and over?
Man.
Yeah, you can Frost Shock over and over if you really need to.
Demon.
It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's better than pressing nothing while you're moving, right? And in this situation right here, it is completely fine to use Fey Transfusion on the boss.
Okay.
It comes off cooldown. You can use it right away. See, you're sitting on your lava burst stacks, and now you're at 2 charges.
Right.
And you're just pressing lightning bolt. But now you're at 2 charges for like a long time, and you're still pressing lightning bolt.
Yeah.
You didn't need to use this heal here. That's an extra global that you wasted. And now you got a lava surge proc. You're at 2 stacks.
I still haven't pressed it in a long time. Jeez.
Beam next.
Oh, you did it! You did it again, but it says you canceled it.
Oh, weird. No, it's all
Yeah,
good
you're
now.
still at 2 stacks. Look at you go, dude. Oh, you pressed Frost Shock again as a global. Good. You move so much. Look at that. Look at that, dude. Oh, shit. That volcanic's really close to me, man. I gotta get away from that.
I was trying to get to
Look
the
at you
bait
go.
area. No. Okay, I'm trying to get it to the so I can bait it in the right spot if it does the range throw.
Yeah.
Even though the boss is dead, it's kind of pointless.
I'm gonna start moving up the stairs.
Okay, so you Earth Shock here, which I guess is okay, but you don't generate enough Maelstrom afterwards.
Nope.
You see?
Yeah.
On a boss like Echelon, you want to have an Earthquake, an empowered Earthquake, available for the first mobs. And they come out, I think, 10
That looks
seconds?
really good.
10 or 12 seconds after the boss starts, right? So you're at 60 Maelstrom here,
Assuming that slasher
and you
goes
dip
away in a
below
second.
60 before the boss actually
There it is.
starts.
Right.
So you don't have enough Maelstrom now to Earthshock the boss, which is unfortunate, but it's also like you're losing potential Maelstrom as well. Do you know what I mean? By like, if you were at 100 Maelstrom, right, and then you Earthshock the boss, that puts you at 40.
Right. I see. Yeah.
So if you were at 100 going into this room, I think you would have been closer to 60, and then after your first cast, you would have Earthshocked immediately. You got a very lucky Aftershock proc here, which is completely fine, but like usually you can't rely on that. And then the mobs spawn. So here's what I actually would have done here. I wouldn't have used this Earthquake right away.
Okay. Would you have gone up to 100 Maelstrom?
I would have just used my other spells a little bit more, because between 60 and 100 Maelstrom, like that's just pooling, essentially.
Right.
You're not wasting Maelstrom, right?
Okay.
But the Earthquake now loses a little bit of value because it's only hitting one target here, and it lasts
Okay.
for 6 seconds, right?
Right.
So if you place this Earthquake out a little bit later, it would have been a little bit more effective. Not only that, but you also start your Eye of the Storm really early.
Yeah, my thinking, I shouldn't have started the Eye of the Storm. I summoned the dude so that I could try and get my stacks up before the little ads came, but I never even thought about saving the Eye of the Storm for the ads.
Yeah, dude, you want a pad here for sure.
Yeah.
Kill the kill all the ads before Billy can do anything to them.
Acquire the overall, that's right.
Yeah, acquire the overall. Let's see. Second boss, use Eye of the Storm too early. You want last few ticks to hit the ads that spawn. So you get that, but you don't get the first few ticks either. So your Eye of the Storm ends right there as they're all grouping, right?
Right.
And you also don't have an empowered Earthquake out for these ads. This is good though, because your first strike window procs. Wait, does it proc like right as you chain lightning?
I think the chain lightning procs it.
Okay, so yeah, I think so too. So what you would have actually been able to accomplish here if you saved the Earthquake is the Earthquake would have proc the first strike, and then you would have had first strike for the first chain lightning.
Right.
And then Billy would have done no damage. You still do a crap ton of damage though here. This is actually where I would have used Ancestral Guidance too.
Well, I remember Ellie told us he said he wanted my healing on the second and the third one. So
Okay.
that's why I split it up on the next two.
Okay.
But we do dip really low.
Yeah, you do dip really low.
Yeah.
On the 28, you might not be able to do that.
Yeah, that's true. We probably would have died actually on 28 there.
So, this is my favorite fucking thing, dude. Oh my god. Okay, so you also Stormkeepered pretty late. That's another one of my points. You know, Stormkeeper late, pad the meters, dude.
My goal, so I probably did it the wrong way. My goal was so I could get the instant cast of the Chain Lightning on the ads.
I'll dispel.
And I didn't like waste it on Lightning Bolt on the boss, but I might have done it like too late or something.
Yeah.
Or I could have Stormkeepered and then done Lava Burst or something.
Yeah, exactly. I only say you did it too late because as the mobs were grouping, you were still casting Stormkeeper, right?
Right. Okay.
This
So yesterday Ellie was complaining and he said he wanted decurse instead of me, so I decursed him there and let myself get stunned. But
look at how much you're running around.
yeah.
And then you have Spiritwalker's Grace up here.
Yeah. And
Right.
my Night Fae.
And you ruin your Night Fae.
And
For
there
fuck's sake, man.
There it is.
Try to kick far ones.
I think I do the shift move too soon. I think the shift fades away before they, or I get some of it. I remember, but I get lucky. Yeah, I missed
Look
it.
at Dispel. No, you completely missed the Fey Transfusion. And it had no value here.
Yeah.
It had no value because you actually would have been better off
Try to kick far ones.
just DPSing and doing your regular rotation because you didn't even get a heal off. And Fey Transfusion, it does no AoE damage.
Right.
It's split damage, right? So you're doing like 3k a tick. 2k actually a tick from Fey Transfusion instead of doing your regular rotation, which would have been more damage. And if you did that, this ad probably would have died.
Yeah.
So a good practice actually on this boss is to not use your earthquakes right at 60 Maelstrom. If mobs are going to be coming out, like I recommended for the first earthquake on the boss, to just kind of like pull Maelstrom a little bit in anticipation for the ads. You can do that multiple times throughout the fight, right?
Right. Okay. Yep. I'm thinking, like, why am I moving now that I'm?
You're
watching
moving
that?
so
I'm
much.
moving all the time.
The melee brain player, dudes. I gotta strafe left and right while I'm in combat. It's more flashy that way.
How did we have 4 decurses there?
Stormformed.
Oh, Stoneformed. Now, you don't have Earth Ellie for this next pull because you use it here. I totally think that's fine because you want to use Storm Elemental for the next pull anyway.
Yeah, I think everyone was dipping low, and I just kind of freaked out, and I'm like, man, I just want to kill this, something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that's a completely valid thing because it's giving you Vital Accretion, which is better than Last
You
Stand.
try to
Oh,
kill boss.
I had a question right here too. I used Stormkeeper here, like again, because I was freaking out. I want to kill the boss. Do you think it would have been better to save it? Because I don't have it on pull on the next pull.
Yeah, I think it would have been better to save it here,
Okay.
technically speaking. In this situation, do as much as you can to CC the ads, interrupt them, right? Focus on single target and pool Maelstrom. Look at how low your Maelstrom is.
Right. Ooh. Also, so in a situation like this where there's all the little ones, and then you have the boss, right? And then everyone's calling single target, just kill boss, don't kill the ads. Is it more prio damage to chain lightning for Maelstrom to shock the boss, or are you just better off doing your normal single target?
So it depends on how much time is left on the boss fight. In this situation right here, the boss is literally about to die and you have no maelstrom going to the next pull. Right? So it would have been better for you. Like, the boss is gonna die here. 100%. Right? So a couple seconds ago, you could have been prepping Chain Lightnings and generating maelstrom. Pretty much right here.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Like, all you need is like 3 or 4 casts of Chain Lightning. And then you can go back to you do a lot of movement here. You do a lot of movement, you do a lot of cancel casts. Look at how many cancel casts you had.
Yeah.
And this is part of the reason why you had no maelstrom going into the next pull. It was very scary, and I understand that, but it's kind of like a lot of Shaman gameplay is thinking 3 steps ahead, 4 steps ahead, right? Like pretty much any caster class, actually, you can relate that to any caster class, any DPS class. It's just like
Earth here, by the way.
Is that exact kind of tidbit of information.
This ring?
So you have Storm Elemental here, but you don't have
No Stormborn.
Stormkeeper. The timing is almost there. So if you had the same timing, but it was the 28, definitely use Stormkeeper.
Okay.
Because you're just short. And actually, I think you're fine. Yeah, you actually are fine. So on the 28, you're going to be perfect. But
Okay.
here, as long as you're not proccing first strike with like an earthquake before you do your burst window, you should have a complete burst window here. Like no drawbacks.
Yeah, I think I keep forgetting to proc my first strike with a flame shock before we go. Like, so it's normal. It's this chain lightning is proccing it most of the time. I think.
Yeah. So you don't want to do that, and you're again another one of those badge situations.
Yeah.
JPC next pick.
So imagine this for a moment. If you came into this pull with all like the maelstrom that you would have needed,
Right.
you would have procced first strike with Earth Shock, right? And if you did your opening rotation a little bit better, instead of pressing badge after your 2 Stormkeeper Chain Lightnings and your Earth Shock, your burst window would have looked a lot heftier.
Yeah.
Than 7 point or 10k. You actually probably would have been right next to Billy.
Oh wow! I canceled that. Showing you guys.
JPC next pick.
The pulls that you were doing in this dungeon,
Trees?
um,
Start kicking sins now?
if you were doing them and like you were as good as Shaman as Billy was like Fire Mage, or like you introduced all of the little tidbits and tips that I'm giving you, you would have been right next to Billy in overall too. 100%.
Okay.
Typhoon me?
Alright, next.
Yeah, I can't wait to get him tomorrow when we
Let's
go
go.
back. With all my new secret tech.
Or your new secret tech,
Like a
yeah.
better position in here.
Or, you know, we just wait until I get access to tournament realms and then we just replace you for the halls.
Yeah. You might have to replace me for a bunch of them then. They got me in the prison, man. I might have to play Shaman.
The blue prison!
Yeah.
Just start moving.
Is that why you looked up the word prison earlier?
Yeah, because someone was asking me while I was playing Shaman in Spanish, and I didn't know how to say I'm stuck in the blue prison.
That's really funny. Oh, here's the situation. I'm sorry, we got distracted. Look at your maelstrom going into the boss.
Right.
Now, here's one thing that you do actually really good on this boss. You do your first strike window perfectly. So you get both your Stormkeepers off and you get an Earth Shock because you had enough maelstrom going into the boss. But if you had a little bit more, this just would have benefited you like throughout the boss, that you started it with more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you would have been closer to like your Earthquake in this situation. Maybe it could have been within your badge window, the first few ticks of your Earthquake, if you went into the boss at like 100 maelstrom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just all these little things that add up over the course of the key. Not only that, but if you used your Stormkeeper earlier in anticipation for the pull,
Billy.
maybe if you had better Spirit Walker's Grace timer or anything, you could have like been walking up to the boss using
I
Stormkeeper,
get next.
right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
this putting Stormkeeper on cooldown early is going to benefit you in a very specific way based off the timer that you pull the second gargoyle. Let's think for a second here. This loyal Stoneborn is an enemy for the first few seconds. And because he hasn't hit you yet, you can actually proc first strike off of him.
Yeah. If I had used Stormkeeper 6 seconds earlier, they would have lined up.
They would have lined up, right?
Yeah.
5 head.
There it is. Okay.
James.
Would you?
What's that?
So the trinket would be desync though, but that's fine. You would just like use the trinket when it comes up and then resync them up later.
No, because you use them at the same time.
Well, but if I Stormkeepers early, then wouldn't I be?
If you Stormkeepered early, you would have still been in the boss room, and you would have had badge on cooldown. If we rewind all the way back, please don't disconnect me.
I kick.
So if you had Spirit Walker's Grace in this moment, walking up to the boss fight, you Stormkeeper right here,
Yeah.
you badge, and then you pull the boss with Flame Shock, double Stormkeeper, or Shock.
Okay. Okay.
Got it.
But instead,
First.
that's when you Stormkeeper, and then badge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, they would have been on. They would have been on perfectly actually.
James.
So I gotta try to remember save Spirit Walkers on the previous pull if I can.
If you can, yeah.
Billy.
And then we fast forward. You would have had first strike, refund right here, and then
What's that?
hopefully would have gotten like your 2 Stormkeeper stacks with it. You know what I mean?
Billy.
Yeah.
Storm Elemental on this pull. That's completely fine.
I actually was curious about this because later when we finished the dungeon, we were talking about it and we were thinking maybe it's better for the next room, but
It's not though. It's really not.
it's not. Okay.
No.
Okay.
And we're gonna fast forward here. If your Spirit Walker's Grace comes up, this is one last point that I had for High Educator. If your Spirit Walker's Grace is up while the swirlies are out, there's no reason to not use it. Because you interrupt a lot of casts because you have to move from the Anima Fountain.
Right.
I get next.
Let's fast forward. Again, for High Educator, you were holding on to Lava Burst charges a lot, letting them cap, like right here.
Yeah.
I get next.
Pulling Maelstrom at the end of this boss fight. Very integral.
Am I less in this room or boss?
Boss.
Just like on Echelon, right? Because you're going into the next
No less, no
boss
less,
room.
so-
You're going into the next room. It's a huge AoE pull. And the next room is kind of specific for what you want to do in really, really high keys in order to not get a second kind of like mini boss drain. Because you rely on the other groups of mobs to refresh first strike with chain lightnings.
I'm front now? Oh, okay.
So-
I
Go-
will go back right.
Oh, I thought that was actually you talking to me. So this is really good that you pooled Maelstrom, but I actually would have Earthshocked here.
Right.
Because then you would have gone into the next room with a Echoes of the Great Sundering buff.
Alright, I'll go front.
And then all you need to do is chain lightning once to have enough Maelstrom. You Earthshock, you chain lightning 1, and it's guaranteed 5 hits, right?
Right.
Alright, I'm going front.
Oh, I also wouldn't have Stormkeepered.
I've always now? Oh.
Boss.
I wouldn't have Stormkeepered here.
This one's gonna be
Okay, you would have saved it.
I would have saved it, yeah. Because, like, going into the next pull, the next room without Stormkeeper, and, like, all of that Maelstrom generation and cleave damage is, like, really, really integral to not get the second big suck.
Yeah, me and Jay.
Right.
front.
Okay.
So let's say, for instance, you came into this room with the Echoes of the Great Sundering, the buff, and you just used Chain Lightning to get an Earthquake out. So you put Earthquake like down here, or your first Earthquake is wherever you were assigned, right?
I actually went to the wrong place, by the way. Here.
Yeah, I know. I heard the discussion about you guys not knowing what your front and your backs are.
Yeah, it was funny.
But I also would have used like Chain Light, your Stormkeeper, and your badge to like Chain Lightning again in a different pack to procs First Strike again, because you get free first strikes from every single one of these.
Right, okay.
And then you can actually place like additional Earthquakes around the room. And
Yeah.
it's okay to do that, because if you place like 2 big Earthquakes on top of each other and then like the mobs just fucking die, well, now your Earthquakes are just like left over there and not doing anything, right?
On back.
Right.
It's not back.
You also waste Starfall damage too.
Yeah.
I thought this is back. Is this still considered back?
Yeah, that is the back.
Yeah, that was the one I was assigned to.
So in this room, yeah, save Stormkeeper for the room, go into the room with an empowered Earthquake buff,
James kick.
and then like spread your Earthquake damage around the room. But focus on wherever you were assigned, like with your Chain Lightnings or whatever you're supposed to do, just to like generate regular AoE, right?
Right.
I'm not going into the room with Stormkeeper. Pretty unfortunate. You want to come into the room with 40 Maelstrom, previous boss, then Stormkeeper procs. I would have saved Storm Ellie here.
You woulda?
Yeah.
So you could use it with Lust.
Yeah, so you could use it with Lust in the next room, because you get two Storm Elementals on the next boss anyway. But the first Storm Elemental window with Bloodlust is like
Billy.
insanely valuable.
Okay, okay.
It would have been 3 times as valuable as you just using a dry Storm Elemental on this guy.
James.
Okay, that's good to know.
So we can fast forward here.
I got next. James. I got next.
Into the Pride skip. And good. You come into the next boss room with enough Maelstrom to Earthshock right away. This is where you need to Stormkeeper in anticipation for the pull. But you wait, and then you drop an Earthquake without it being empowered. Wait, no, it is empowered. Okay, never mind. You drop an Earthquake to proc First Strike, that's fine, but you want to not waste your First Strike window because there's only one mob here.
Yep, okay.
So you needed to precast Stormkeeper, your badge, right? And then drop the Earthquake after that, double Stormkeeper, use a Lava Burst into a Flame Shock, maybe even Fey Transfusion out of it too.
Yeah.
Everybody on pull.
Is it worth on single target? Like, so let's say I have my Storm Ellie here. Would
Yeah.
it be worth to spend the 2 seconds doing Fate Transfusion, or should I just do the Lightning Bolt over and over?
I think it's worth, because you can get 2 Fate Transfusions in the fight, and you're at low stacks of Gust of Wind anyway.
Okay.
I can't see it, dude. I can't see the boss looking at me and casting. Damn it.
Hey, Ellie said he was intentionally doing this for content. He put the Ashen down just to get me killed. That's what he said in this
Yeah?
episode.
Oh, okay. That's very unfortunate.
It was on him. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sheet. Oh, sheet, dude.
What?
Oh.
Arres.
So yeah, in this situation, I mean, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have died there, right? You had Spirit Walker's Grace up to move out of it if you saw it, and you could have just been spamming Lightning Bolt Uwus the entire time. Uwu.
Yeah.
Someone redeemed Uwu in my chat. I'm sorry you had to hear that. So, with Bloodlust, it's 100% like really, really good to just spam Lightning Bolts. I find that when you have Storm Elemental out on a boss that's not being Bloodlusted over, you don't even touch Lava Burst.
I didn't see it.
So you're doing the opposite of what you want to do, essentially.
But don't I want to use Lava Burst because I don't have the Storm Elemental?
Exactly.
Ellie, can you still both
Okay.
pick which one you
Right?
want?
But
Right.
when you have the Storm Elemental out, but you're not in Bloodlust, you're not using your Lava Burst.
Right. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Makes sense.
If
And
you
I-
have
yeah.
Bloodlust and Storm Elemental out, you spam Lightning Bolts to generate the stacks as fast as you can, because when you get to higher stacks faster, you're generating more Maelstrom faster for the Echoes of the Great Sundering buffs.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you were not using Echoes of the Great Sundering, it wouldn't be worth you spamming Lightning Bolt in Bloodlust.
Right. Okay.
What? I got these back too.
So this is completely fine that you use Fate Transfusion here. I think you might have interrupted your Storm Elemental's Wind Gust attack to cast this Eye of the Storm.
Oh, I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, if you cast Eye of the Storm before your Elemental finishes its, like, his default ability, Wind Gust, it'll just interrupt the cast. But I can't tell because you don't have a pet bar anywhere.
Oh, it's right above my thingy. It's at the bottom,
Ooh.
right above the action bar.
Oh, it's right there. Okay, but he doesn't
Yeah.
have a cast bar. He doesn't have a cast bar.
Yeah,
So
I should probably. Okay, yeah.
Fuck around.
I probably should get that add-on or week or whatever that is.
So if you are going to cast Eye of the Storm as your priority, essentially, just cast it immediately after Call Lightning.
Okay.
That way you're not interrupting Wind Gust halfway through the cast.
Or block, sorry.
I'm gonna get the two on the right, hefty.
Okay.
Pretty much it. You guys don't die on this boss, right?
No.
Watch out there.
So yeah,
I'm staying.
mainly the takeaways.
When's the next interface?
Never.
The takeaways are just like your first strike window, kind of like getting that on lockdown, right? And making those changes. You have a bit of Maelstrom management and pooling work to kind of fix. And then your downtime is pretty long on boss fights. You also need to work on casting Lava Burst.
Yeah. I'm not doing so hot on the mana department.
Aside from that, though,
We still have Trinket, right?
you did really well.
Well,
Thank you.
Especially for playing, like, Aoe Shaman for, like, 2 days. Oh, you let Flame Shock fall off the target.
Oh yeah, I actually remember that when that happened. I'm like, oh, I think I might have said something too.
Yeah, you see how often you're at 2 stacks? It happens way too much.
Defense.
Okay. Is that big DPS loss?
That's a big DPS loss, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because Lava Burst does base damage, higher damage than a Lightning Bolt,
Right.
right? Because it guaranteed crits. As long as Flame Shock's on the target, so. And see how you get another Storm Elemental on this boss anyway? But the problem is, its duration outlasts the boss.
Yeah.
So, if you had Storm Elemental coming into the boss, it would have been up, like its full duration would have been used. Its second use, its full duration would have been used.
All right,
Well
2
done,
minutes.
boys.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking
So,
solid.
congratulations on the 27 Halls of Atonement and beating the time
I
of
think I
the
did 2 minutes.
Yeah.
is it the Chinese group.
second run?
Yeah.
All right.
They got it done last night. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Yeah, no problem. If you want my notes, I can send them to you.
Yeah, actually, that would be great if you want to send them on Discord or something like that.
Yeah, I'll send you those notes. It was cool. This was a fun little project.
Yeah, I actually really appreciate it. There's like a lot that I was doing wrong, so I'm excited to try and implement some of this stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Well, this is going up on YouTube, so I'm going to do my little sellout spiel now. You guys want to subscribe to Barokoshama, check out my YouTube channel. Check out my Twitch page. Check out JPC, the man's Twitch page. I'll leave the links to those in the description of the video down below. And if you guys like the content, subscribe for more Shadowlands and Shaman content. Like the video if you like it. Comment down below what your thoughts are on JPC's gameplay. And until next time, keep calm and Maelstrom on. Bye-bye.